Good day and welcome to a new video. Hello, this is me, Daniel here. We're going to be talking to you about tonal studies, and I've got koru-xypress,
Cyprus.
Cypress, on the stream today, and here's his work, so you can go see his work at koru-xypress at deviantart.com, and I'll show you his work too for the last 5 minutes, if we're going to keep on going. Yeah. So welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Everyone can watch some of the previous streams he's in. I think 2 other ones, eh? You're in. And today's stream we're doing tonal study. So I'm doing a tonal study of just some creature designs and stuff, and I thought it would be a good opportunity just to, kind of discuss tones a bit further, because in my last video that I made for this, I created 3 tone studies for different pieces of artwork, and then I had to take it further to full tonal study. Yeah, so I thought it'd be great just to talk about like full studies of tonal and full tone works, and kind of the importance of that, because it's one of those things that can really help an artist to improve his tone. I think for me, when I first met tone, it was probably early in art, like in school and stuff. We had to like color a circle in from black to white tone. But I didn't really understand what I was doing. I was just like, make it look like what it looks like on that page, I didn't fully understand it. So it took me a while to get my head around it, and yeah. Well, so for you, Koru, when was we'll call you Cypress, eh?
No, call me Cora, it's fine.
Okay.
Cyprus sounds weird. It's like being called your last name.
Yeah, it is. When did you first understand or learn about tones?
The first time I learned about tones academically would probably be college, art college. That's back in 2008-ish.
Oh yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't exactly a foreign concept, I think, at that point, because I sometimes flip through art books and such, and they discuss about like warm and cold tones. So when I finally got to college, I was like, oh, all right, this is it. This is the subject. But it was a bit more in depth, I think, since the academic teaching is a lot more structured, while me just flipping through art books in bookstores is just like, I'll skim through it, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, college.
Cool. Yeah. It's something that I only learned like little things about to begin with. Really, it was only like objects aren't just white. They go from whites to darks. It's not all white and black kind of thing. And then it was like a bit more in depth and starting to get my head around it kind of thing. Yeah. And it's a lot of mileage involved, I think. For this work that I'm doing, it for that month that I was working, I was plainly working in black and white for the whole month or 2 months because I had another study and the study to do, and it was like, oh, I'm so missing color. It's one of those things I love. Love to get straight into color. Um, but I feel there's a problem with that because, you know, if you get straight into color, you haven't kind of fixed all the details. It's kind
Yeah.
of like one of my tutors saying, "Oh, you can't make a bad drawing look good just by adding some color."
Yeah. Exactly. Well, mm, it depends on the perspective, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
fundamentally, color doesn't actually help or improve a drawing in that case. Well, it depends on the approach of an artist.
Mm.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, the whole artist approach on it. Yeah. Do you think that you've mastered tone?
No, absolutely not. And I don't think anyone actually masters art, even though
Yeah.
there is a master's degree, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
But the journey of an artist is practically endless. I mean,
Mm.
it's the point of doing art. You try to perfect your craft for your entire life. I don't
Yeah.
think even the masters of art, quote unquote, um, like Picasso or Da Vinci or the great masters of old. I don't think even they think themselves as masters of their craft.
Yeah.
They were constantly studying, researching, perfecting their craft. And yeah,
Mm.
no, so no.
No, definitely not. Like yeah, you just keep learning something, and you just gotta keep practicing, and um, it's like there's so much, even just in tonal, and then on top of that, color. When adding in color, you've got to think about hue shifts and changes in color. Um, you can't do a tonal
Hmm. Hmm.
study. You can't do a tonal study and then try and jam one of those, what they called layer masks, that
Hmm.
changes the colors. I forgot the name of it now.
Hmm.
Um, Gradient map, I think it's called, and expect it to
Yeah.
be good. You know, uh, it
Yeah.
takes a lot of learning, and yeah, and you've got to also there's different things to indicate as well. Like I find it really hard challenging to in black and white indicate kind of things as well. Um, like fur going on, because you've only got like limited range. You've only got white to black. You don't have all the colors. So sometimes I feel that limit can help you out, because if you give artists some sort of restraint, they can actually produce something quite good. Um,
Mm.
for instance, like we've just had Inktober this year in October a couple months ago. Most artists restricted themselves to using just an ink pen, and
Mm.
there were some amazing pieces out there just by using ink.
Yeah.
And then you can like compare artists, because they're all using um, the same pen or something, and it's like, oh wow, you know they're really cool and they're really cool.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. There's some great artists out there.
and
Very
then
talented.
some use it bit washy. They might use ink, but they might wash it or something on like watercolor paper or something, and do something really awesome, like a tonal study or something with just inks. I'm like,
Mm.
really, painting with ink, that would be like really scary, because what if it sets and you're like, but I want that area to be white.
Yeah, that's the problem with real media. There,
Yeah,
there is no undo, there
yeah.
is no control Z.
Mm. Yeah, these days a lot of people do just digital, and it's like, okay, that's okay, but I feel like they're missing out on some fundamentals. Um,
Hmm.
that's the way I feel. Like, you miss out on fundamentals of, making a mistake and then learning from it, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Or how in traditional I find it that if you kind of screw up on a drawing, you could erase it, but you can only erase it so much, and then you have to go get a new piece of paper and redraw it from the start, and that, I feel, builds up your mileage. And with digital, I don't feel like there's as much of that. You can just erase as much as you want, and then keep iterating it. So I don't feel there's as much
Hmm.
mileage that way. But it's my opinion. Um, yeah, tones. I'm always going to have struggles with that. Um, how do you feel about like moving from tone to color?
From tone, are you saying tones as in values?
Yeah, tones is in values. Yeah.
Mm, well, it depends on the effect I would be going for. Usually, some of the more vibrant pieces I did was skipping the value stage altogether.
Mm.
So I didn't went through that grayscale stage and then moving on to adding color into it. I jumped straight to color, and it sort of ends up uh, being a more vibrant piece and has that more impressionistic feel to it.
Yeah.
Whereas the grayscale stage, the value stage, it's I think it's kind of a more digital stage,
Okay.
since usually artists use the overlay layer on top of that and things like that.
Mhm.
But uh, when you're talking real media, painters don't usually use black and white. They just jump straight into color and
Yeah.
then mix it on the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
So I think both methods have their own strengths
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, in values, and using values, you really get a better sense of the form before jumping into color, and usually it it creates a nice contrast between the more vibrant areas of the painting and the more dull areas of the painting. So it really creates that nice contrast. Whereas diving straight into color usually ends up creating a more vibrant piece.
Yeah.
So if it depends on what you're going for. If you're making something more dramatic and mellow in a way, I guess values the value stage is would be a nice way to go. In contrast, if you're using lots of colorful palettes, vibrant vibrant tones in your painting, and you want that impressionistic feel in the final piece, I think jumping straight to the color will help create uh,
Hmm.
a more rich color in the end. So it depends
Okay.
on what piece you're for.
Yeah. I feel that you can go straight to color. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But you need to understand that colors range. They're not just you know, there's blue and there's green, and you'll get a quite flat image that way. So you need to understand that there's there's white to blue, and then there's white to green. You know, there's all those ranges in between that you need to be conscious about when you are painting. So always, yeah, you'll just create like flat graphics, and then you won't really understand what's going on yet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that to learn about tints and shades and things like that, that's very important. But in terms of jumping from values to color, it creates a different atmosphere depending on how you approach the painting, regardless of your knowledge of tones and shades and things like that. I think that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see this painting when I do put color into it, and then compare it to something that I've, you know, started straight out in color. It'd be very interesting to see if it's like, you know, if it's going to be what you're saying. My other ones are going to be more vibrant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, what do you think are some good ways of practicing using tones?
I think drawing something from real life would be one of the best. So, well, in real media, you would probably need to go out into some part outdoors and try to paint something from real life, or still life. I guess you can do that too. You know, still life paintings are also a good way. In terms of digital, I think if you could try to recreate a photograph, and not just someone else's art. It's like a real photograph, unedited. Try to recreate that as best as possible without using the eyedropper tool. Just think of it as a canvas. Just use paintbrushes. Don't use layer after layer. Just think about it as a digital canvas with just one paintbrush and things like that. Try that, and I think you would learn a lot of how light bounces off objects.
Yeah, it does take a bit of self exploration, which is a big word for everyone with a pencil and a pen that's writing this down, you know. But yeah, I've done many tonal things in the past, you know. I've gone out, as I go out around places. I draw everywhere I go, really. So I've always got a sketch pad with me. So sometimes I just end up, you know, looking at my hand and drawing my hand, and other times it's like, well, I see this tree across the road, why not draw that? Or maybe I might get fascinated by a bug, and then a bug would turn into me drawing something really odd. And sometimes I do shade them in. It's like, you know, I shade them in. But I'm always doing these boxes, so I draw a box and then think about the lighting situation and how things are going. I'm always thinking about this box as well as I'm working on things, um, and thinking, I don't as much these days. I don't as much because sometimes I break them up, break my objects up into like spheres and triangles and things like that. But now I can kind of work it out in my head if if it's, for say on this painting, its backside is a bit rounder. So it's got a rounder shape to it. So I'm thinking about that rounder shape in my head, and yeah, kind of thinking about the shade. I seem to do these days. I seem to try and render a lot of materials, because it's popping up in my work a bit more and more. You know, especially with like things like this year I've had the pug series, so I had a pug dressed up as Harley Quinn, so I had to think about
Oh.
yeah, I had to think about like how to render that material, and I still think I'm working on that as well. There's a whole other ball game when it comes to rendering material as well, because yeah, back in school, I did a drawing class and graphic design. I hated line back then. I still don't like it as much. Like, we have to use rulers and measurements and everything. Construction drawing, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I just dislike it as, but I mean I will do it if I need to. But because it's less free and open, so that's why I kind of detested it. But anyway, we had to learn how to render different things. So we had to learn how to render metal, wood. I think that was it. Metal and wood. I think there was another one, but I can't remember it. But yeah, we just and that was just with pencil, and then eventually there was a few colors we could use, like blue metal and brown wood, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. By the way, sorry if there's noise in the background because it's raining at my place.
Oh yeah, awesome. You got some wet weather down there, well, up there. Well, that's good. We've had a lot of hot weather down here, so yeah. Cool. We'll get back onto our tonals, eh? So yeah, I did I was streaming this for a little bit, as I do, because I'm Twitchy now. This has been on Twitch, and should be on YouTube. It'll be on YouTube when you hear this, probably. But yeah, so in that I did tell you guys a little bit of a story about this. You can find out that in the three-tonal study video that I've got. It's the last one, I think. But yeah, you guys can check that out as well. But yeah, so now in this piece I'm getting into like fur texture. Fur's a hard one, I think, to overcome. And I've been learning fur for the last at least 5 years, because most of the things I draw is furry creatures, because I really love them, like red pandas. What else have I done over the years? Dogs, cats, you name it. I've probably drawn it if it's got fur. Also, another one would be like scales. I've worked a lot with scales as well. I still think I'm learning that. I've only just kind of learnt some skills in that too, like how to break up that. Yeah. Yeah. Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you're painting your characters or creatures or scenes, how do you go about working out the tone?
Ooh, I think the first thing I determine is what sort of mood that I wanted to tell,
Mm.
what sort of story, what sort of atmosphere am I trying to create. So if it's an action scene, I would use a lot of uh, vibrant contrast colors. I would like that.
Mm.
If it's a hot area with explosions, I would use a lot of red, a lot of orange, warm colors. If it's a more serene and calm atmosphere, I would use probably green or blue,
Yeah, yeah.
a more cool tone. For instance, not so long ago, a client asked for a commission, a set of commissions, each representing a time of day. So
Mm.
dawn, noon, dusk, and midnight.
Yeah.
And each of them, I approached each of them differently.
Mm.
The dawn one was more kind of a serene, calm, melancholic atmosphere. So I used a lot of orange and purple to get that rich, sort of melodramatic atmosphere from it.
Yeah.
So I did that. Whereas for the high noon, it was more of a clash of colors of reds and yellows and blues and green. All of them are very saturated colors.
Yeah.
So uh, so you get that the richness that sunlight gives on a clear, bright day. Uh, as for the sunset, I used slightly warmer colors than the dusk because it was a bit of a more richer atmosphere. And for the midnight, I used all exclusively cool colors like blue and dark blue, a bit of purple. I mean, even the characters' robes, which had red linings on them, even looked purple in that lighting. So I guess, yeah, it depends on what you're trying to portray. And I think before jumping into color, it would be wise to determine what sort of story or atmosphere you are trying to create, and then use the colors that evoke those elements into your painting.
Yeah. Mm. And yeah, I think just be conscious too is like where the light, how you want the light hitting the character. For instance, we all know that kind of scary look when someone takes a torchlight and puts it on their face, so there's a lot of shadow coming down. And maybe where the how about like where the characters where they are sitting in the 3D space. How do you kind of work out where the light hits him?
Oh yeah, that's values and shading.
Mm.
Yeah, that's important as well.
Yeah. Yep. What have we got now? Yeah, we'll basically go on to the last one. Which is basically one I made up, which was, what do you think is the importance of tones? Which is basically what we were saying. But yeah.
Well, like I said, the importance of tones, like warm tones and cool tones, it really affects what sort of um, what
Mood.
the atmosphere of
Mm.
the painting, what sort of emotions evoke them. Of course, the lack of tones, like purely black and white, also has its own atmosphere. It's kind of like looking at old pictures,
Mm.
old
Mm.
black and white pictures. I think it has a nostalgic feel if it's accompanied with like a brown monochromatic tone.
Yeah.
Pure black and white has that noir sense
Yeah.
of um, kind of that mystique,
It does. It does.
mysterious. Yeah, so it really affects the atmosphere of the entire picture.
Mm.
If you see paintings from different eras, you can see um, like the trend of how they use tones and colors in that era, and you can see that uh, uh, paintings from the Romantic period
Yeah.
are far more vibrant than the dark Baroque
Mm.
era.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think it does that. It really affects uh, the theme, so to speak, of the entire piece.
Yeah. Have you done a like full black and white painting, and then
Oh
yeah,
yes,
and then have you added
yes.
color on top of that?
Well, basically, if I am making a painting using the grayscale stage, it
Yeah.
started out as a black and white painting,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
then later on added color.
Mm.
But the nice thing about pure black and white, like monochromatic pieces,
Yeah.
is that you focus more on the form
Mm.
and sort of less distraction, so to
Yeah.
speak. There's less distraction, so you don't have to bother about colors and just focus purely on lighting, where the shades fall, where the shadows fall. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, when you take a certain element out of a piece, the other elements sort of become more enhanced.
Mm.
And I think, yeah, if you're going for something like that, it becomes really prominent,
Yeah.
that aspect. Everything else, like anatomy, becomes far more focused.
Mm. So, do you think it's worth it to take the time out to do a like polychromatic, like I'm doing here, before you do any color, or even just as a study?
Oh, study about values
Mm.
is very important because it's one of the fundamental things of painting.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're making something, uh, whether or not you want to add color onto it, like I said, it depends on what piece you're making. Some pieces are
Mm.
better black and white. Some
Yeah.
pieces are better in color. If you're making pieces for like a horror piece
Mm.
or like a scary picture, like those Tim Burton styles, then go with black and white.
Yeah.
If you're making like a children's storybook of, I don't know, Paddington or some teddy bear, then you would have to use more colors to
Mm.
capture your target audience. So it depends on what kind of picture, what kind of audience you're trying to draw into your art. Because if you don't know your target audience, then the piece will just become inconsistent in the end.
Yeah. I've seen these pieces of, they get the old war photos and things, and then they color them up with, I think they must use Photoshop and kind of gradient map over top of it or something with all the colors. But it changes the piece dramatically. It's like, oh my gosh, it looks like it's happening in our time, and You see so much more like emotion and yeah. And we usually see the black and white one, you're like, oh yeah, it happened back in the day, when there was all these wars going on, and it feels, like that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, like I
yeah,
said,
yeah, you can use polychromatic to maybe make it old campaign, or um,
mhm.
maybe it's just what the client was looking for in the Tim Burton kind of style. Maybe he's after a new movie, Frankenweenie #2 or something. um, but yeah, yeah. Um, it does change it dramatically. But yeah, as you said, it is really important. Um, really do try and push it. If um, if someone wants like advice from me, and they're like, oh, if I feel their tones are missing, I'm like, yeah, you need to do some tonal studies, because you can definitely tell if they're missing it. You know.
Mhm.
But yet again, there are some, awesome artists out there that use either, very minimal, so it's like three tones, like black, um, or black, white, grey, or all the colours, red, darker red, and a really darker red. They only use three little tones of the colour, and they get away with it really cool. It works really well. And others can use very flat um, images, and they can still look pretty cool. Obviously they do look flat, but they look cool for like graphics and all sorts of interesting things.
Mhm.
But yeah, if you want to, create amazing scenes, and maybe you want to become a storyteller or something, you kind of need to be able to mold, your tones and things to what you're talking about. Tell your story and really set the scene. Um, like in this piece, I'm trying to set the scene of, nice day of these creatures rolling along the sea, and I'm using very vibrant whites to really, the whites to bring out that sunshine that's coming out on them, because yeah, you'll see it when I probably post it up on YouTube, and you can see the final painting eventually. But yeah, and I plan to do the color piece in a couple weeks, maybe. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I plan to do the color piece soon. So this will be an interesting experience, because I haven't really like stepping back and done like a full black and white tonal and then added color on top kind of thing. I've kind of done it, but not as extensive as this.
Mhm.
So it's I think I've learned a lot from it, and it's going to be an interesting experience to put color on top.
Yeah.
mm. It's one of those things though, if you kind of um, learn it and understand it, it helps a lot of things, and then little things become faster, like I was saying before, rendering different textures and things. Once you understand, on a general object, how the light hits it and forms the whole thing, then you can also place on top of it, the little texture marks and all the little texture bits that go on top. Like if I was rendering wood, I might have to add all the the tree marks. I can't remember what they're called. The bark marks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this shouldn't have long to go. I'm just pretty much on the video. I'm just placing up my little last marks, and per usual, I've gone over the layer limit. I used to start when I started digitally painting. I kind of started in a traditional sense that I was only using one layer, and then I was like, yep. I might save a layer and then that's it. So that's pretty much the finish of the piece there. Yeah, have you got anything further you want to say? Just showing your work now.
Oh, all right. Nothing in particular. I think I've said it all.
I think you said it all. Awesome. Well, I think you've gotten tonal down anyway in all your pieces, so check out Koru's artwork and see how he uses tone as well.
Well, I try my best.
Yeah, we all do, and yeah, there's many, like you said about books. You can flick through books, and there's a lot of things you might be able to start looking at now. Now you might know something about tonal, and that you can, put some mileage in to get that up. But yeah, thank you for joining me.
Hey.
It's been great having
You're
you.
welcome.
And yeah, thanks everyone for watching this. Yeah, you're welcome. Have a great one. And yeah, thank you. That's been tonals with me. So that's tonal creature scene now painted, and that was with koru-xypress. So thank you all. Goodbye.